Hello and welcome to the I Must Ask You a Question show. I'm Tim Nichols,
And I'm Jim Bardwell.
and we are glad that you joined us today. Today, we're going to talk about marketing language that wins clients, and I'm excited about this conversation, Jim. I've been struggling with this from myself. I've got a big event coming up, and I'm a writer, so I put out all these words, but it's usually about the event. It's usually about uh, the process or something like that. But I wasn't winning with the words, and so I got to doing some research on this, and thought this would be a good topic. So we're going to talk about marketing language that wins clients. What are your thoughts on that, Jim?
Well, it's funny, as we were talking before the show, I kind of brought up an idea that, there's certainly a fantastic a book that talks about things, and often the teaching method is in parable. And, you and I both have been in a situation where you're sitting there in an audience, you think, that person's talking about me. Why,
Right. Right.
why is he or she telling the audience all about me? Don't be airing out my dirty laundry. You're talking about me, and oh boy, my fingers, my toes are stinging a little bit because man, they're stepping all over them, and that just means that person is utilizing a fantastic method to get people to really pay attention to a message. People love when a story is about them. They love when the story it includes them. It makes them part of it. And so that is an absolute win if you can figure out a way to tell your story of your brand, of your product, your good and service, but make it about the client, make it about them enjoying that product and experiencing that service and utilizing that product. Yes.
That's right. So Heather Nichols with the BizFizz says, speaking the customer's language, their level and style should be priority over talking the way we want to be communicated with. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if we were to take that a step further, we make it about them. There's something called the hero's journey. I think you've heard that term before. I know that movie producers use it, and a lot of other people use that in TV series and all that kind of stuff. But it's a certain formula for how to tell these stories. And, as I got to question what I was doing and things like that, I got to looking deeper into this and thought, I need to apply that better. And so what I saw was making your client or customer the hero of the story first, right? Instead of talking about you, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm Tim Nichols," or something like that, you just go right into what you want their goal to be, or what you see for them as the hero, right?
Absolutely. And you see it done well, and then you see it done not so well. So there was a time when every product, good, and service on television was sold to us or represented to us by a celebrity.
Right.
Okay. A lot of folks don't realize this, but went on to become the president of the United States, Mr. Ronald Reagan. He was in movies and such back in the golden era of Hollywood. Well, he actually took a full-time job with General Electric. Do you remember that, Tim? That Ronald Reagan was the official spokesperson for General Electric. So he was on all the TV commercials.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Well, he was. And so think about this. I mean, they hired Ronald Reagan to be the face of their company. And that certainly is a method. But if you notice modern TV ads, modern internet ads, modern published ads, they don't do that so much anymore. I mean, there are still some that use celebrity, but most of the time they use their average Joe, the average Jane, the family, the young kid utilizing the product. And think about that today. If you were to watch a typical television commercial, very seldom is it some celebrity saying, "Hey, I'm Jim Bardwell and I'm smart and I'm good looking and I use this, so you should too." They don't do that anymore.
Right.
They're utilizing a story which they put forth a character that you can associate with. You can easily say, "Oh, that's me. I'm just like that person." Right? I could see myself using that product, because basically that's technically what you are. You're seeing someone just like you use that product.
That's exactly right. And the faster I think we can get into placing them in that role, I think the better we have their attention, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I see. Looks like we've had some more comments here. This Viz says, right on, help the client imagine themselves being a hero. And then Andy Costa, Andy Costa Films, is a terrific storyteller and knows what they're saying to be true, what you're saying to be true. So thank you for that. Let's see. Here's something interesting, that describing the villain. You know, if we're a Joe Blow, if we're the common everyday hero, what do our villains look like? How do we describe that, Jim? What's a good way for us to do that?
Well, I was just last week, I spent some time coaching and working with a service company here in Boise, Idaho, and they're developing a new website, and they're putting forth their brand and developing a brand new logo. I mean, everything's new, right, Tim? That's exciting. That's fun. But it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
So one of the things they said, well, listen, we have an entire process that a rug goes through as it comes through our facility. There's all of these different steps in the process. And so we've got all these pictures and photographs. I said, no. You got to start all over again. Why? Why do we got to start all over again? It needs to be the exact same rug. And I said, well, what do you mean it needs to be the exact same rug? I said, no, it literally needs to be from the moment it arrives: inspection, pre-treatment, emulsion dusting, emulsion bath, drying, protecting, wrapping, delivering, the entire process, start to finish. The client needs to realize that it's the same rug. I said, because that rug, in your term, becomes the hero. Okay.
That's right.
And the villain is, number one, the puppy stains, and unfortunately, the little things that puppy dogs like to do, and sometimes kitty cats. Kitty cats, not as much as puppy dogs. Anyway, those are the villains, right? And then the loose, dry soil. And we have to, and see, a lot of people think about, like in the case of this rug, they think about puppy dogs as a villain. Oh boy, that puppy pee-pees on my rug. That's not good. I'm not happy about that. But did you know the number one villain of rugs, Tim, is what's called loose, dry soil?
Interesting.
Loose, dry soil abrates rug fabric, destroys rug fibers, and makes them appear not attractive anymore. And so we say, oh, that rug is all worn out. That's not from puppies. We can't blame puppies, all right? So we have to identify the villain. We had to educate the client that this service addresses this villain that they didn't even know existed. They didn't even know the villain was there.
That's right.
And so we had to tell the story in such a way that we introduced them to the villain. They understand that he's there now, and that this company, this product, this service can address it, right? And we went all through. We identified a number of villains. Tim, did you know the number one way that in the rug cleaning process, the number one way a rug gets damaged through an improper cleaning process is improper drying? Meet Mr. Villain that you didn't know existed. That unfortunately some companies will come out and clean a rug. They do a fantastic job of cleaning it, but they don't control the drying process. In that drying process, have you ever gone to someone's house and seen a beautiful rug laying in their home, and all of a sudden you look at the edge of that rug and it's just, old Texas term, it's meandering all over the place. It's looking all cattywampus and out of shape, right? You get to the end and the end's cupped up or cupped down. Man, women don't like that. Men don't like that. People don't like that when the rug is all peeled back and they're stomping on it trying to get to lay down. You know what that's probably about? Improper drying of those fibers. And so you're exactly correct. You need to describe the villain that they might not even know exists.
Well, and here's something, as you were talking about that, I think of the business owners and entrepreneurs that we help, some external villains they may have might be time, right? They might not feel like they have time to go out and meet new people, to try to do some networking or learn different things or something along those lines. Another thing would be an internal type of a villain, like introversion. I have some great friends that are good with people. They love people, right? And they're good business owners. But they say if you put them in a room like at a luncheon, they're going to find a corner and a wall and they're going to stay there. Right? They just don't want to go talk to people. And a lot of times that villain could be conversation or just flat out introversion. And then there's the philosophical, where that would be something like it's just not right. If you could just put your finger on something that just shouldn't be that way, right? So those three things might be something for our listeners to consider as far as what your villain might be.
Absolutely. If you're having trouble identifying your client's villain, well, maybe good practice will be to start with your own, right? What are my villains? What am I going up against that I don't even maybe realize is a villain? That's where it's good to have a circle. You have a circle of trusted friends and advisors. Your friends and advisors maybe sometimes can point out villains that you don't even realize you have. Just like with that client,
right.
with that rug, they didn't realize that the drying process was a villain. Well, within our own lives, we might not realize that we have a villain. Okay.
That's right.
I once had someone, Tim, believe it or not, and I know you're going to find this shocking, Tim. You're going to be shocked by this statement, but I got to be transparent with you. I had someone send me an email one time, and you know what they said, Tim? They said, Jim, I enjoy listening to you. I enjoy learning from you, but your mustache is distracting. What? My mustache is distracting. I never thought of it as distracting. And I told my wife that, and she goes, I could see that. I could see that if somebody's not used to seeing a mustache like that, they might find themselves looking at that mustache going, my goodness gracious. And maybe they miss a word or two. And I said, I never thought of that. I never thought that my mustache could be exciting, distracting. So that's what a good friend and a good circle of influence will do for you. Matter of fact, call me crazy, but I think you are associated with a group of people that do that for one another, right? That's exactly what you guys do.
That's right. Our peer advisory groups, we actually watch each other's blind sides, as I like to put it, and do life together. And actually, they move as a team into networking events, like to handle some of those villains that maybe some of those individuals know about, but they're struggling with working through that. And so that the peer advisory groups actually help them to implement. So it's pretty cool to watch, but I appreciate you saying so.
That's right. That's right. One of the best I've seen was, we don't need to plug any companies here. We don't want to step on someone's toes if they're with another brand, but it was an insurance company, and they did such a great job because if you have general insurance, in other words, you insure auto, home, personal insurance, you have a whole product line that just covers everything from babies to old folks to everything in between, right? All kinds of insurance. And you think, well, what could be the villain? Well, I know, a fire. Well, a fire might not happen to a car. Oh, I know, an accident. Well, your house isn't going to be driving down the road getting an accident. So what could be? I know. So they invented a character, and he was called Chaos. Do you remember those television ads? And they said, now, watch out, chaos can come. It was brilliant because one day chaos was in a car wreck. And the next thing you know, chaos is having a tree fall on your house. And the next thing you know, chaos is making you break your leg. So they identified a villain that no one thought about before, chaos. And it was just a great way to identify an unknown villain. And then suddenly people say, well, wait a minute. There's this villain out there that I need to cover myself for. Right? There's chaos. Chaos is out there. So that's what we're talking about.
Well, and just the fact that you're bringing that up, and you brought up the peer advisory groups and stuff like that, we've got to make ourselves the guide for our clients and customers as to how to navigate that villain, right? If they're going to be the hero, because in these parables and things like that you're talking about, the guide shows up to show them the process of how to navigate that and how to come out on top. Any thoughts on that?
Well, and again, because that's just like any hero, right? In a story, you introduce the hero, you introduce the villain, and then quite often in a story, like let's talk about a movie, right? You introduce the hero, or sometimes the anti-hero, the reluctant hero, right? And then you have my favorite reluctant hero of all times, of course, is Spider-Man, right? Peter Parker. He did not want to be Spider-Man. He didn't set out to be Spider-Man. He got bit by a spider, right? And so he's the anti-hero. Of course, the villain. I mean, Spider-Man's got all kinds of villains, right?
Right.
Doctor, the Octopus Doctor, right? I mean, you got all these villains, but they also will often have exactly what you're talking about in a guide. Now, in Spider-Man, are you much on Spider-Man, Tim? Do you know much about Spider-Man? Did you read Spider-Man when you were a kid?
I know a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So who was Peter? Who was young Peter's guide?
I would say the uncle, or in the newer ones, it would be Tony Stark.
That's right. The original Spider-Man, it was his uncle, his sweet uncle. And his uncle said the most famous phrase in Spider-Man-dom, right? What's that most famous phrase? He told young Peter, he said, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And so that's, it's funny. If we look around us from the time we were a child to, high school, college, young adult life and everything, and we've seen all these movies and we read all these stories, the blueprints are there, right, Tim? And so, when Stan Lee wrote Spider-Man, he had a product to sell, his comic book. He had to sell that comic book, right? And so, how did he do it? Well, he wrote a story. He wrote a story about something, and it got us intrigued, and he identified a hero. He identified, and of course, he made him a very normal person. As a young boy reading that comic book, what kind of person do you think reads comic books? Big old, strong, tough jock type? No. A cowboy out on the plains lassoing doggies? No. Kind of an introverted, maybe the little wiry kid who's not the jock. He's not the, right? He's kind of a bookworm. He likes to read. What was Peter Parker? Right? Yeah. And so I bet you those kids that read that comic book, they associated with Peter, didn't they? They thought, well, he's like me. I could be him. And so it was a perfect example of using a story, establishing a hero, establishing villains, establishing a guide. Now, in this case, the guide was supplanted by another character. But what we can do is we can be that guide for our client going through that story, that comic book of, in my case, last week, getting a rug cleaned, right? That's a real life scenario that they're going to face. And maybe some of them have never been through it before. So this rug takes on their rug.
That's right.
They see that same rug go through that whole process and come out on the other end going, I'm all clean, right? And they think, well, I want my rug to go through that process, right? I'm going to trust that company to be my guide to take me through there.
Right. A big challenge, I think, that a lot of our listeners may face as business owners would be, I think a lot of times when they tell the story, they originally want to be the hero. They don't mean to make themselves the hero, but they're not seeing themselves as the guide. And a lot of times I think it comes with maybe time and experience, but really having someone else say, hey, I encourage you to take the guide approach here, because if they're not the hero, you're not either.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
right.
If you're not making them the hero, then you're not writing a story. You're writing an autobiography, and
that's right.
That's fine. I mean, you can write it. You can write your biography. You can write the story of your life, right? But when you're selling a product, good, or service, that's not always the best thing to do. Yeah.
Well, and that being the case, though, you may have your own experiences of how you overcame this challenge, and which puts you in place of the guide, right? But we've got to share that process with them as the guide, not as our autobiography story, right? So bring them the plan, tell us how maybe empathize with them, and then establish our authority with them, saying, hey, I know what you're feeling. I've been there before, and this is what I did to overcome it. I'd love to share with you how we could help you overcome your villains.
Exactly. And that's a great point. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I started this off with talking about how companies in the old days used to hire a professional spokesperson. Usually it was some kind of movie star or actor, right? Or a singer or something like that, right? Pat Boone. Pat Boone was the official spokesman for Chevrolet for how many years, right? I mean, see the USA in your Chevrolet. Did you know that Chevrolet gave Pat Boone a brand new Corvette every year as part of this compensation for being the official spokesman for GM? That's not a bad gig. Man, I wonder if I could figure the way out to get me a new Jeep every year. Anyway, so I guess if I could sing like Pat Boone, maybe I'd have a shot at it, Tim. I don't know. Listen, what you sometimes have to do is realize that you can do that. If you truly do have that experience, you can be a spokesperson for your brand as long as it can be bona fide. So remember, Tim, when we were young and there were only 3 television channels. Now, if you had that UHF antenna, you got 4, right? But normally you only had 3. You had ABC, CBS, and you had 3 channels. And this time of year would come around, the holiday season, and nowadays they probably start in September. But back when you and I were young, the Christmas commercials didn't start till December, right? Late, usually right after Thanksgiving. And one of my favorites was this little snowman that the bottom half of him was a 3-bladed electric Norelco shaver. And that little snowman would come sliding down over the hills. You remember that commercial, Tim? And
I think so.
Yeah, he was come sliding down. And at the end of it, the guy would get on there and he said, now listen, I like the Norelco shaver so much that I bought the company. Do you remember that commercial?
I do remember that. Yeah.
He said, I bought the company. What was he doing? He was telling you that I'm not just the guy that owns this company saying, buy this razor because I want to get rich. I'm telling you that I thought this razor was so fantastic that I bought the company. So he was given a reason to trust them with his plan, which was he wanted you to buy that razor so you could shave your face, right? But he was giving himself a bona fide. That's in Louisiana, we call that. That's how you prove that you know what you're talking about. Another great example of that, you remember, I'm not only the hair club president, but I'm also a member, right? Remember the guy that showed his head was bald? Well, what was he doing there? He was revealing that he had been on that journey. He had been in their shoes. He was not just giving them a plan. Hey, come give me some money and I'll give you a wig. He was telling them, hey, I've been where you are. I've experienced what you've experienced. And so that's a great point, Tim.
Yep. Giving them the plan and the authority. Now, the other thing is we've got to call them to action. It could be, hey, join now or buy this or do something along those lines. But, I think there's 2 different types of call to action, though. I mean, direct is like, hey, do this, buy this, join now or whatever. But then there's the transitional. Give us some insight on transitional versus like the direct.
Yeah, well, again, last week I'll use that example of that rug cleaning operation. Just because we identified the villain, loose, dry soil, it's not the kind of villain that's, you're going to walk around the corner in your living room and it's going to jump out and poke you in the leg. I mean, it's not that kind of villain. You know what I mean? It's not going to lay a little trap for you and you're going to walk through your living room. It's going to trip you up and like Gulliver's Travels, jump on top of you, nail you to the carpet and start torturing you. It's not that kind of villain, right? So you can't give them a direct, if you don't get that loose, dry soil out of your carpet next week, oh my gosh, there'll be trouble. You can't really say that. But you can point out that villain is something that they didn't know about, and it does damage the fibers. So over time, if you wait till your carpet looks dirty or worn out, it's too late. By the time a fiber looks dirty or worn out, the damage has already been done. And so we teach them a method. Matter of fact, Tim, you know what I'm going to do for our listeners today? I'm going to teach you guys a neat trick. If anybody has a rug in their home, any type of rug, a rug that's on the ground, right? If you want to find out if you've got that damaging loose, dry soil in your rug, what you're going to do is you're going to go, now look here, I have this little bitty miniature tiny rug. Isn't that cute? Little bitty baby rug, right? So we're going to use this as an example. You go to that rug and you turn the corner up just like that. You take the corner, you fold it in on itself. You make a little bend. You take a piece of paper, a piece of white typing paper, will work out just fine, and you slide it under that bend. And then you take something, you can use your hand, but it's usually good to use some type of tool. A ruler works well, a hairbrush works well, and you tap the back of the rug over top of that new piece of white paper. And you tap it about a dozen times, okay? You take that back, you take that piece of paper, and you do this with it. You fold it like that, and you fold it like that, and what you'll have is a little pile of loose, dry soil. If you do that and you don't come up with any dry soil, well, guess what? Your rug's in great shape. Your vacuuming is working. You're not damaging your rug, but usually what happens if a rug's been down any time at all, you will see that loose, dry soil. I've not only identified the villain, I've taken them through the whole scenario, the whole story of that, right? They're going to see that villain first and foremost. The next thing you explain to them, now look inside that soil. You should see brown, you should see black, but you know what's scary? You know what else you'll see? Tim, you'll see the color of that rug.
Yeah.
If that rug's got blue, if that rug's got red, if that rug's got white, you'll see those colors mixed into that dirt. You know what that means, Tim? Those are microscopic pieces of your fiber that's getting abraded by that loose, dry soil and breaking off. So imagine that multiplied millions of times over, and that's how you end up one day. You walk in your living room, and Tim, you walk in there and you say, Heather, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but this rug don't look so good. It don't look like the day we bought it. It looks dull. The colors aren't bright like they used to be. What is going on here? And that's what's going on. So that's a prime example of, it's their rug. I'm not telling them I'm talking about their rug. Mm-hmm. I'm showing them how to find out if their rug is facing a villain. And guess who can be the hero? Now they can bring that rug to me, but who is the hero? If they go home and determine that rug is in trouble, then they're the hero. They take action.
Right. That's right. I picked up on some other villains that you were talking about. The loose, dry soil would be external. The time would be external.
Yep.
And then I'm going to say they're either fear or embarrassment of having a rug that was not ideal, not clean as they might perceive, not as clean as they might perceive. That would be an internal villain for them. So there's some significant characters in that story that you just described. So I appreciate you using that. And the call to action, obviously, is check that out today. So just even you doing the test, that was a call to action to take the test.
And you know what's funny about the call to action, and this is really good, if you can figure out a way to call someone to action and they don't recognize it as a call to action. Because see, we're a little when we know we're being sold, if we know we're being sold, we're going to put up a little defense. It's human nature. Okay. The worst thing you can do is look at somebody and say, do you understand? Your carpet's going to be ruined. You're going to be out that money. And they're going to be like, oh boy, he's getting a little pushy there. I'm going to submit that when we get off this call, if Miss Heather was listening, who knows? Behind your curtain right now, she might be back there beating on that little rug already. She's probably thinking, wait a minute, I wonder if that's in my rug, right? And so it's a call to action that is actually not as blatant and not as pushy as a sales pitch. If you can figure out a way to do that about your product. Now, I know in your line of work, that might be something as simple as, when was the last time you looked at your portfolio? When was the last time you even spoke to your financial advisor? Is it something you do once a year? If you're only speaking to your financial advisor once a year at tax time, he's not a financial advisor. Okay. He's a tax attorney. You know what I mean? You need somebody that you talk to a lot, right? An advisor is somebody that you communicate with on a regular basis.
Well, fortunately, I don't have to worry about that anymore. But since our whole business has grown now, but as far as doing this, and I think it's important as the guide that we describe their future success. If we can paint that picture in their mind of what future success looks like, just like what you were saying with the rug going through the process and out comes a clean rug being delivered to their home, that is their future success, is the rug being delivered clean, right? So I think it's important for our listeners to be able to identify for your customers and clients what that future success looks like and help describe it to them before it even happens, but describe it as if they're the hero.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. Exactly. Now that we've used this rug scenario, let's just keep on with it. That's exactly what the end of the story shows. It shows success. It shows that rug that started the process all the way through. It shows it clean. It shows it going back to the home, that the rug is happy. The client is happy, right? It's funny how sometimes if you can give a certain amount of life to an inanimate object. I mean, if someone that listens to this call, they are in the insurance business. They're in the business of insuring automobiles and insuring motorcycles. You know, people give life to those objects. Quite often, yeah, they're just transportation. They're just something to get us from A to Z, right? But there's also a lot of folks that really give life to their vehicle. Their vehicle is an extension of their personality. Okay. You know, sometimes you ever played that game, you ever gone to a party? I don't know if you've ever done this before, but a fun game to play at a party is to go around in a circle and guess what kind of vehicle everybody drives just by who their personality is, how they look, how they dress, how they talk, right? I'm pretty good at it, Tim. I'm pretty good at it. So it's a fun game. And, you know, so as if I was in the business of insuring those things, I might want to do that. I might want to paint a picture of that object with some personality to it, some life to it. And the success would be that, you know, your motorcycle, your Harley Davidson, your pride and joy, your little baby is happy. It's sleeps well at night knowing that it's going to be taken care of should something happen to it.
Right. Well, and then I think something else that's important is to describe their failure to act. So, you know, I guess in my hesitancy before, I've been hesitant to describe this is what happens if you don't grow referral generating relationships, right? So that's what mostly 3 million% does, is revenue growth through referrals. So we're teaching businesses how to do that. But if they want to continue to do things like they have been doing, they can get the same success that they've always gotten. Right. And so that's something I've learned to do, is start describing the failure to act. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends. My philosophy is more towards painting a picture of the positive as opposed to the negative. And that's just, again, my personality. It's how I represent myself and my products. You know, I don't know about you, but, you know, growing up, you know, some folks, I remember when I was in school, I had some friends, we go to their house and their parents would look at them and say, Tim, should you get some good marks on your report card, we will take you out to Showbiz Pizza and you can invite some of your friends. Remember Showbiz Pizza, Tim? We'll take you to Showbiz Pizza and you can invite some of your friends and have a good time. So Tim, you get good marks on your report card and everything will be wonderful. Now, that certainly is a way that I think is a good way to motivate somebody and caution them. Now, see, my household was different, okay? If you don't get good marks, you're going to get the fire beat out of you, okay? That's how they did it. And so their description of failure to act was a bit more warning, right? More negative.
Right.
I think probably a good balance. Don't you think it should be a balance? We can't, you know, fail to warn people if there truly is a pitfall in front of them. You know, if I don't explain to people that if they do not remove that loose, dry soil, there is going to be a negative outcome with that rug. And if they like the rug, if they care about the rug, if they want to protect the investment that they've made in that rug, if they choose not to use my firm, that's fine. But by all means, you've got to have the rug properly cleaned. I firmly believe that we are the best people in town to choose. But even if you don't choose me, for some reason, this mustache is distracting, whatever the case may be, I implore you, please take care of that rug. You know, I once had someone that was encouraging me to buy life insurance. And, you know, that's the tack that person took. They said, listen, if for some reason this product isn't what you think you need, and I can't come up with a product that you feel comfortable with, that's okay, Jim. But please, I am begging you, get some type of insurance in place for your family, whether that's through me or someone else. That's a really strong statement that he truly believed in the whole idea that what life insurance does for somebody.
Right. Right. So those are great descriptions of failures to act, you know, and so I do think it's important that I feel like we're kind of setting up parameters, right? So this is what success looks like. This is what failure looks like, but this is how you get from where you are to where you want to be, success, right? I will guide you there and let's make you the hero. That's kind of how I perceive all of this. Listeners, what questions or comments do you have? Love to hear from you as we're discussing this.
Yes, and listeners, if you do my little rug trick, even in the future, if you do my little rug trick and you think, oh heavens to mongoloid, my carpet looked like I looked like I was ready to start doing sand sculptures. Okay, if you end up with a little bucket of sand coming out of that rug, and you think, well, wait a minute, Jim was all the way out there in Boise, Idaho. I'm in Illinois. What am I going to do? Don't worry, I know fantastic folks all across the country that can take good care of you. So if somebody happens to do that little trick, I'm not just going to leave you in a lurch. That's the thing, Tim. You can't identify a villain and then tell them, oh, now you're on your own, figure it out. You know, and now that you got this villain in the living room there behind you, you got to deal with it yourself. Now, I'm not going to leave them hanging. They can certainly reach out to me, and I'll help them.
That's right. Heather liked your quote there. Oh heavens to Mongoloid.
Yeah, that's right. That's a Buck Rogers. Man, I tell you, I never cease to show my age on this show, Tim. The stuff I say, well, that's Buck Rogers. People are like, Buck Rogers, what is he talking about?
That and Showbiz Pizza, right?
Right, and Showbiz Pizza. That's right. That's
right. That's funny. Well, I don't know if we'll have any other comments or questions right now, but we do encourage you to continue the conversation in the comments once the show is on replay. But Jim, tell us a little bit about Fiber Protector America and what you do for them and what they can do for us.
Fantastic, Tim. So as always, I'm Jim Bardwell. I am the Executive Director of Sales, Marketing, and Education for Fiber Protector America. Fiber Protector America imports a fantastic high-end textile sealant from Norway. Comes from beautiful green Norway. They have such a commitment to environmental responsibility there. Our product is a green product. It works fantastic. If you see this beautiful living room behind me, our product can protect that white sofa. Woo! Yes, it can protect that white sofa, the rug you see behind me, the leather you see behind me. It puts an invisible shield on all of those things so that life does not cause you, the villain spilling something does not cause you heartache, especially coming up here with these holidays. We do that through a licensed applicator network. If you want to learn more about Fiber Protector America, you can go to our website, www.fpamerica.com. That's initials only, FP, Frank Paul, fpamerica.com. Or you can send me an email at jim@fpamerica.com. That's jim@fpamerica.com.
Thank you very much, Jim. And I'll go ahead and introduce myself and my business as well. I'm Tim Nichols with 3 Million%, and we help businesses grow their revenue through referrals. And we do that through a peer advisory program. And some of the villains that we help them conquer are their frustration and their loneliness, with networking. They hear of other people that are out there networking or doing marketing things that are growing their businesses, but they feel so frustrated that they're not getting the same benefit as some of these others. And what it is, some of these other businesses just aren't talking about the same frustrations that they feel too. So we found with business owners that if they could identify with other business owners challenges, their experiences, or their victories, then they would actually be encouraged. They would be encouraging each other. They could move as a team. They could give each other feedback. I wrote curriculum around this where they become the hero. This is all about them. And they have peer advisory discussion meetings where they talk about what each other is doing in their businesses and how to help each other achieve their goals. So that is 3,000,000%. And we look forward to you taking a look at what we're doing. We're going to be starting some one-day workshops coming up where we compress a whole 6-meeting, 3-month process into a single day and give you the full experience in one day. So we're looking forward to coming into your area to do that. So with that, I will say thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And be on the lookout for cheat sheets, notes, webinars, anything like that that we might include in the replay of this video. All right. So again, keep the conversation going in the comments. We'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, next Monday, not Tuesday, Monday.
That's right. All right.